All right. Hello, everyone. Um, and good afternoon. Welcome to this session of the Contemporary Artist Book Conference. I am Karina Reynolds, the Executive Director of Center for Book Arts, and I am a white woman with medium length brown hair sitting in the office of Center for Book Arts. There are lots of boxes behind me, and I tend to look kind of pink. I probably do right now. Um, as a member of the organizing committee of the conference, I will act as a host for this session. CABC has been held since 2008, and this year is organized by Center for Book Arts in conjunction with Printed Matter's New York Art Book Fair. And I just want to give a huge congratulations to the whole team over at Printed Matter, because you guys rocked it this year and you're continuing to rock it. So congrats on your return to in-person programming. We'd like to take a moment to thank our conference sponsors, the Brooklyn Rail, Sorted Library, the San Francisco Center for the Book, and Stephen Bury. Thank you all. We're so grateful for your support, and we're looking forward to working with you again next year. So before we start, I also want to give a quick land acknowledgement. Center for Book Arts and the usual in-person space of Contemporary Artist Book Conference are on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape peoples. I ask you to join me in acknowledging and uplifting the Munsee Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations and the lands which you are tuning in from. Over the course of yesterday and today, we've had 5 sessions exploring a wide range of questions about artist book visibility, what it is now, and what it can and might be. A link to the full CABC program will be posted in the chat window in just a minute. These sessions are also being live streamed, as you can tell right now, on YouTube, and will be archived on the CABC's website. Those recordings will probably be ready for you on Monday morning. So if you missed any of the conference sessions, feel free to watch them later. They're actually really good. If you have any questions during the session, comments or anything for the speakers, the panelists, or about the topic in general, please put it in the chat of YouTube. I will be taking those in real time and bringing them to the presenters. Also, please feel free to use this chat to communicate with each other. We really love critical dialogue, and that's the whole reason why we're here at CABC. So please share your thoughts with one another and with us. I'll also be posting relevant links during the talks, so if there's anything that we're talking about, I'll try to pop that in and you can check that out later. And now I would like to introduce Jennifer Vega. Jennifer is an experimental writer, poet, editorial project manager, and she studied linguistics and creative writing at the National University of Colombia and leads a distribution project for the self-published books called Musa. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Jennifer. I practiced Paradisiaca, is that right?
Musa Paradisiaca. Yeah. That's the names of bananas. Yeah.
Thank you so much. With the project that she has collaborated on numerous self-publishing processes of books and zines, and has organized several spaces around thinking about the editorial scene with artists and non-artists, writers and non-writers, self-publishers, and the creative community in general. So it's my deepest pleasure to welcome you to our Zoom space. So take it away, Jennifer.
Thanks, Karina, for that generous presentation, and thanks to all the organizers and sponsors and the people who is with us right now virtually. So yeah, well, I'm Jennifer. I'm an editor manager of Musa Paradisiaca, and I'm here today in the company of other 5 artists, women artists, and also managers of other editorial projects that I deeply admire. And we're going to be sharing today with you our talks on what's going on in the editorial scene of our country. So let me share a presentation that we made for you. Give me a second. Okay, so you're seeing my screen, right? Great. Great. So this little talk that we're gonna have, because we know that it's gonna be just like some thoughts and like a little window about all that is going on here, because we have limited time. But we're gonna be sharing some things about how what is happening in our scene, in our national scene. So we decided to call this conversation is this fanzine or artist book Colombia's publishing scenario. And this here that we're gonna present to you today, this here that we're gonna put in on the table right now is our bodies. So there is gonna be three spaces, three parts of this collective body that we want to share with you, that we're gonna go through today. So part one is our hands. So we're gonna show you our hands. Part two is our eyes, and part three is our mouth, our big collective mouth. And in each of these places, of these parts, we're going to share first a little context about what's going on. And we're going to present ourselves and our projects. And in the second part, we're going to show you, we're going to invite you to see with us some books and some stories that we want you to see. And in the part three, we're going to have a little discussion of everything that we've been showing you. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So in the first place, we're gonna talk about a little bit about the fanzine and artist book in Colombia. This is, I insist, just a little window of what's happening. And this whole thing is gonna go around the power of something that we call autogestión. I looked how to translate this, and there's two ways to do it. The first one is self-management, and the second one is self-government. And I didn't choose none of the two options because I think the word autogestión in Spanish carries both connotations. It's something about self-management. Of course, we do that every day in books. Uh, but it's something also regarding self-government, because that is actually the big picture that we have here. Like we are faced, like young and artists, with a lot of difficulties when trying to access the traditional spaces of circulation in art. So emerging young artists have found a way in making books. When making books, have find a way to circulate their work with self-management and self-government dynamics, so that we don't have to seek for the legitimation or validation demands of some exhibition and selling spaces, such as museums or galleries, for example. So the emerging publishing scene, regarding like the fanzine scene, like what we call escena fanzinera, that is the people who make fanzines or signs, I think you call them. That people, we began to consolidate some fairs, some bookstores, some those kind of scenes, those kind of spaces that are open to anyone who wanted to share their practices and their work, their books, or their fanzines. It didn't matter how they called them. It only mattered that they were in the with the attitude to wanted to share them. So these spaces were mainly promoted and managed by people who were used to do this process of self-management and self-government. And that practices and that scene had begun to consolidate in such a way that now in this um, in this space that we are, that is the is a conference about re-envisioning the art book visibility. We see that these places that people from Autogestión has created are now spaces for showing and and sharing the work of people who also make artist book or fanzines. So in this process of artists making affordable books for people, because that is the dynamic in the fanzine scene, we've been trying to do inexpensive things and several copies of things so that can work in the context of a fair and not only an exposition. And those hybrid practices have resulted in some things, some weird things, like the something that we starting to call like fanzine object, and other hybrid practices that we're gonna see later in the things that our admired artists and companies are gonna share with us. So yeah, that is like the general context of this, and we're gonna continue to thinking of this all presentation long. So for a start, that thinking, that collective thinking, we're gonna present ourselves. We're gonna show you our hands. So I'm gonna introduce I'm gonna introduce it with myself, with my project, just because I am already talking. So I'm gonna share a little bit about what Musa Paradisiaca is. Musa Paradisiaca is a Colombian editorial distribution project. It's a meeting place that seeks to create new channels and dynamics of visibilization and promotion around self-publishing. We want to promote the exercise of making books as something within everyone's reach, and work as a space for thinking about the editorial world. That is what we are actually doing right now. This space, that is how we see Musa Paradisiaca, is inhabited by authors with publications that express concerns about editorial formats, their limits and possibilities, and how to propose an aesthetic experience through them. These publications are the materialization of new voices that propose very interesting thoughts for readers who like to think of the book as a device that activates other things. That is pretty much what Musa Paradisiaca is. And now I invite Alejandra Montero to introduce herself and to talk us a bit about her job.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm Alejandra. I'm a young, white, tall woman with short hair. I'm using a pink sweater. I'm sitting in my room that is a white mezzanine and has a plant. And I've been doing things for 7 years now. My editorial career started with Casa Barullo, a creative writing collective that decided to self-publish their work in themes because books were very expensive for us to make. In that time, 7 years ago, we were university students. And also the retail price was going to be too high for our friends. That was the public that we want that read our text. To celebrate each new issue, we organized a fanzine fair. Being involved in this process made that my colleague Josué Cabrera and I recognized that in Colombia there are persons and collectives making scenes that are very close to books and artist books, and independent publishers making things very close to scenes, but these two worlds never share a space. They were really separated. So in 2017, we created Papel Caliente. This translates to hot paper because when you just print in a laser printing, it is hot, and it means it's a new creation out of the oven. And that is really important for our project, to put in a same place new projects and old projects and things, but also things that are more like a traditional book. So Papel Caliente was a publisher's fair that joined these two worlds through the fair, but also through workshops and conferences. In February of this year, I inaugurated Papel Caliente, that is now also a library specialized in fanzine, self-publishing, independent publishers, and I also am the director of Casa Fuego, that translates something like Firehouse or the House of Fire, and it's a cultural house in Bogota with the screen printing, ceramic, engraving workshops, and also house our library, Papel Caliente, and the fairs we do. So I make a little bit of everything: fairs, the library, but also scenes with Casa Barullo. Well, that's me.
Thanks a lot, Alejandra. Now, oh, wait, sorry. Now I invite Juliana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juliana Ocampo. I'm a white Latina woman with brown hair. I'm currently in my room, in my desk, so it's quite a domestic space. I'm an artist and an illustrator focused in bookmaking. I also lead an independent publishing project. It's called Techo Roto, Arte Impreso, which in English translates to Broken Roof Printed Art. It promotes the production of zines and artist books since 2019, and it focuses on the exploration of human emotions and how they affect our physical and psychological landscapes. Our publications invite emerging young women, female artists, to investigate the book as a plastic object where images and text converge to reveal the intimacy of the authors, which is what we're mostly interested in. We conceive the book as a connection device, and we approach its making from a very craftsmanship point of view, where we really want to have the freedom to play with format and material. So we end up producing very limited editions, but this is very important to us because the reader ends up with a product that they have purchased, but they know that each of them have been touched by us. And, in the more industrialized way of making books, this is quite rare. And I think that is one of the most special things about self-publishing and making zines. And even though, right now we're in the production of our 6th publication, of course, things change and evolve, and the ways of making get a little bit more complex because you have more skills. But we just really feel like this handmade approach has defined our identity as a publishing project. And there seems to be a space for us in Bogota, Colombia, at the scene that we're presenting. So thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. Now I invite Eva from Niebla.
Hi, everybody. My name is Eva. In this occasion, I think that we are going to get a little confused because it is Eva from Calipso. So maybe we can say to me Chiqui, if it is okay. Well, I am from here, Bogota. A vision artist. I have long black hair. I am white Latina girl, and in this moment I am at my home, and I have some flyers, and that is about me. I belong to this project called Niebla. We have been exist around 3 years ago. It's beautiful because we are 3 persons that meet in school and love the idea to make fanzines, books, prints, go to the street, talk to people, Niebla has the idea that it is important the making things and be a person around that strange place that it is making books. So the other persons that is in my project was Juan Andrés Ureña and Natalia Rojas. She's nickname is Aguacerito. Another important point from Niebla is that we make workshops to people that like to print and show them that they don't need an editorial or a lot of money. They only need a budget, the necessary budget, and just making. It's just like do it by yourself, but your whole ideas and your own tools. I don't know. So, and that is we are here in Bogota. So that's it.
Thanks, Chiki, a lot. Now I invite Eva from Calipso to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Eva, Eva Parra. I'm a white Spanish woman sitting in a very messy office. I'm actually at the store of printed matter because I just took like 5 minutes away from my table at the New York Art Book Fair, just around the corner. And well, I'm in New York right now, and I'm part of Calipso Press. Calipso Press is a publishing label. It's a research studio also, and kind of like a collective that I have with Camilo Otero. We founded Calipso Press in 2015, and we've been making books since then. We actually were making books before that, and I think that for us it became like really naturally that we did books with people, because that was what we kind of used to get in touch with people. Like in Spain, we have like this expression, I think it's worldwide, like let's go and have a coffee, and then you become friends with that person. And we used to joke that we were asking people, let's just do a scene together, and so we can become friends. And we started this more serious publishing in 2015, and with that it started also a kind of residency program. It's a really peculiar residency program because it's not sponsored by any institution. It was just opening the doors of our house to any artist, designer, or anyone that had a project and wanted to do a publication. They would live with us, share meals, like share life, and then together we will issue a publication. We have had multiple residents that we now have the honor to call friends. And well, I say it's a peculiar residency program because we have had like people for just a week, and we have done like a publication where we have had people for just 6 months that they really needed to stop and rest, and we haven't done anything with them but just share the life. Last year we moved to New York. That was not part of our artistic project. It was just like something that happened. And now we have our studio here in New York, but we of course share a lot of things with Colombia, and we're just like trying to shorten distances between Colombia and, well, New York or the States or whatever. And we are now starting a residency program for people from Colombia to come to New York. And this time we're trying to do it with institutions. Actually, the Center for Book Arts is part of that alliance. Also with IDARTES, that is like the Art Institute for the Arts of Bogota. So we're really happy that next month we will have someone from Bogota come here as the first resident of this international residency. And that's it. Thank you very much for having me here and for inviting me, Jen.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you a lot. Now I invite Zully to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Zully. I'm a Latin woman with dark long hair. I'm sitting right now in my studio here in Bogota. And I wrote something about my project. So my project is called Aquí y Allá, but if I translate that words in English, it's gonna be here and there. So we are here and there. We were born in 2019 after a breakdown. We started in a table full of Colombian photo books. We have grown up in the midst of a pandemic. We have published one photo book called Extrañezas. We have created 2 workshops around publications, photography, and archive. We have participated in several book fairs in Colombia. We have been accepted to participate in fairs within Asia and Australia. We have been rejected from the 2 fairs, one in Europe and one in the USA. We have been invited to give lectures and classes nationally and internationally. We represent Colombian artists and photographers working through books. We are the union of individuals self-publishing their ideas. We believe in the artists and their potential. We connect people and their publications with the world. We reject books that are violent or that stereotype our culture, people, and country. We sell books. We are opening our own library. We are working in our 2nd publication in collaboration with Replica Editions. We don't travel as much as we would like to. We are pet-friendly. We exist because of books, people, and nature. We exist because of you. We shout out, here we are, there we go. Thank you.
Sorry, I missed the. Can you hear me? Yeah, I missed the microphone. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Sorry. Great. Thank you, Zully, for that inspiring manifesto. I don't know how you say that, but now before we pass to our next part that is showing you our eyes, I wanted to mention a question that was made by Don Clifton, who was wondering if autonomy will be a closer fit for the word autogestión. And yeah, I think it also has that, like, through autonomous dynamics, we are consolidating independent scene that is also collective. So yeah, I think it's a good fit. Also, I say hi to Laura Fernanda Flores, who also commented with a heart. She's also a great artist who has a project of photo scenes that is called Liz Negra Editorial. Hi, Laura. Thank you for being here with us. Okay, and now for the next part, when we are going to show you some things to see with us, I'll ask Alejandra to start if she wants to share with you a great book. This is something that I consider like the greatest experiment regarding the fanzine definition. So I'll let you with Alejandra to share a bit about this process of the publication number 10 of Casa Barullo.
Oh my God, please give me 1 second to put the camera.
No, it's okay. It's okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna use it to say hi to Aguacero. She's also a great artist who makes books. So hi, Aguacerito. Thank you for being here with us. Also, Marta Morales says hi from Colombia. Hi, Marta. And Don Clifton says, in Australia, where I live, self-government has colonial overtones.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna, okay, thanks. Okay,
Thanks.
Alejandra, yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit of that because like autonomous, here in Colombia, we have a lot the discussion because many people use the term independent publishers, independent, but the question that many people make is independent from what, from where, from who. So me, Alejandra Montero, I prefer autonomous. I think it fits better. Well, I think you are watching in the other camera the fanzine number.
Oh, but I think that is not being shown. So maybe Corina, could you spotlight the other Alejandra's camera, please? And I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I will show you and talk a little bit of Casa Barullo, the fanzine project that I'm part of. It is a creative collective. Each fanzine says hi to you. Then you open a door that leads you in a space of the house. So the text of this part evoke place emotionally, or because the text takes place in that part of the house. Each text is from a different author from Colombia and has an illustration of a different artist. We have artists from Colombia, but also from many countries. So you continue to walk around through the house and you open other doors that leave you in other spaces. For us, collage is very important because it was the first thing we saw when we were watching the first references of fanzine. So all of our scenes has the construction plans of the house. The ones that has collage are the closed rooms of the house, and the others are the ones that are open. For the number 10, that was our 5 years anniversary, we made a crazy thing, and I think we're never going to repeat that again. But it's my case of study. This is Ocupa house, is of cardboard cover, and the back cover is with newspaper. The idea was that the newspaper was in the front, but the screen printing was very difficult to see, so that was the first thing that we had to change, and very fast and very stressful, but okay, we decided to make that. Because it has newspaper, each one is different. And in that time, it was the social outburst in Colombia. One of our members is from Cali, so you can see news of what was happening in Cali in that time. It was a way for us to have memory of what was happening. Here it says hi. Then it has a narrator figure. It doesn't happen either in the other scenes. So he speaks of having rabbit that is lost in this house. So this person is going through all the house looking for the rabbit, like in Alicia. I don't know how to say Alicia in the Marvelous World.
Wonderland.
Wonderland. Thanks, Eva. It has 10 plastic envelopes. Each one is the room of a different author and a different. So here you can open it, you can take out the text. Each one is of a different author and it has a different design. So that was like the second crazy thing, is to make a very, very different text. This one works like a poster. So you open, then you continue and continue. For us, was very important in that time to make experiments with the format. So the envelope was the easiest way to take everything together. To make every envelope was very expensive. So we decided to buy already created envelopes, cut them, and then with a warm tool, seal them. It was a lot of work because we decided to make 500 of them, and this was made by hand, each one. Then also we decided it has already some holes in it, but it didn't work with this plastic thing that puts all together. So we decided to make new holes. That was crazy because then when we wanted to make the book, it was very difficult to seal all of it. Each one has a different handle, different text. This one, for example, is like a big snake, and it's all together because for us it's really important that the things we're talking about in each text has a direct relation with the way it is designed in the paper, with the colors, with the illustrations, with how you pass from one page to another. And as all of our things, it has the construction plans of the house. I say that we're not going to make it again 500 because it took a lot of work, and if we decide to price the work, this was going to be really, really expensive. But our public is very young, is university students, and people that really don't have so much money to buy like artist expensive book. So we decided to have a price that is really similar to the things we make. That was a point when we started to really think what we were doing. Like, this is actually a thing. This is actually more like an artist book. It has like a limited edition, but the price is different. And we decided to have a different price because our public was what really matters. And if they can't buy it, it doesn't have a meaning for us. And that's it, I think. I don't know if you want to make a question, or we go with the next one.
Yeah, we're gonna go with the next one, and at the end we're gonna make the questions. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for what you shared. And now I am gonna share my screen again. So give me a second. Yeah, and I'm gonna invite to Juliana to talk us about a bit Intersticio, that is her publication.
Well, in English, the name of this publication would be Interstice. And I wanted to talk about this book because it was the first one I made that was intended to be published or self-published, to be shared with the public. And I think it really tells the story of how Techo Roto, which is my project, the broken roof printed art, came to be. This was really how it was born. And this book I developed alongside my major project at university. This was around like the end of 2018, beginning 2019. And as some other of you know who have studied fine arts, you usually take like a year-long time to make a project. You do research, you make stuff for a year, and you develop like a great taste and love for your project. And then in the end, mine was about exploring the inner territory and this psychological space as refuge, as shelter. And it ended up being a really nice installation that I did with organic materials. So I used found tree roots, tree branches. I made a fabric made of skeleton leaves. I even used my own hair. But then after this whole year of work, it ended up being an exhibition at uni for about a week. So it was a little bit of an underwhelming result. And as other artists that I know working in our context in Bogota, Colombia, we were looking to give our work a longer lifeline and more visibility. But of course, we have to be resourceful in the way that we do this, because I mean, we're young artists, we're just starting our careers, we're just starting to work, so we don't have a lot of resources at our disposal, but we do have a lot of imagination and time, maybe I would say. So this was the first book that I did, and I wanted it to reflect the materiality of the sculptures that I had made before. So it still included 7 narratives and drawings that depicted the theme, but the front cover was the skeleton leaf. And then inside, it has some pressed flowers that I hand stitched. So I think it represented it quite well. But at the time, I didn't know too much about self-publishing. I had been to some zine fairs. So when I wasn't sure how the public and other people doing zines were going to react to it, but it actually had a nice welcoming from, it was very well received by the audience. And at the time, I was just thinking of it as zine making, you know, because that's something that I knew that my peers were doing, and that felt that it was a space that I could inhabit as a young artist, because of course it was difficult to get into other spaces. But now, after a couple of years that I think about it, I was still using like artist book language, and it was still having like my artist point of view. And something really nice that happened with this project is that, of course, after a couple of publications with my own work, so I started learning more about bookmaking, book binding, how to distribute, how to edit, how to design. I also started working with other artists where I took the role of the creative director, you'd say, or the editor. But I think just self-publishing in Colombia really gives us a space to become professionals, because you can have a degree, you can study, but that doesn't give you all the skills that you need to inhabit the real world. So after some years, I had developed the skills that I'm talking about, and I realized I had never done the book how I actually wanted it to be. So I decided to re-edit it, not as a zine, but as an artist book. And it became this artist box, and I still had some of the materials that I had gathered back at uni. And I wasn't sure how this was going to sell, because of course it's quite fragile and it takes a long time to make. Everything is handmade. But it was really nice for me to like culminate and show it. And I think being in fairs and inhabiting this place within the community who self-publish gave me the confidence to show this book in a context where, you know, this was actually taken at a fair where you had illustrators, you had people who made zines, you had bigger publishing houses and labels. So it's really nice to see how in Bogota right now it's like a lot of different things are being welcomed. And I feel like little by little, artists' books are being welcomed into the scene, and I see it in other projects, which is really nice. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Juliana. Yeah. Okay, now I invite to Chiki to talk us about a bit about her work.
Okay, this one is called Instrucciones para usar tijeras, in English is instructions to use scissors. And it's fun because these days I was thinking in this presentation, and I remember when I was working in a popular neighborhood called San Andresito, I was there selling jackets. And in that place, they give me the scissors with purpose that to cut some things that the jacket has. So that in that case, the idea was to sell it. So it has some like errores, so I cut them. But it is curious because in that place was the first meet with this box, and 4 years before that, it borns this little book, this little fanzine. The idea in collective for the decision better to make this was because we made previously a fanzine about the rage, and we was thinking that what object can complete the experience to have these fanzines that involves rage. So we thinking that it is good to play with scissors, give the persons that buy the other fanzine the opportunity to have the other one and play it with the scissors, basically. There's a video when explains the little format, the content, the pictures, everything. It was funny thinking in the boat inside the box, because it's difficult to print in our houses, in the neighborhood. I imprint this in offset. That was the only form that I will print, and it was fun to make one by one, just with hands, just with the tools that I had in my home, at my home. All the fanzines that we have with the collective Niebla had the particularity that have this kind of objects. Before this one that talks about rage, we have one that it is about romantic love. In that particular case, we think that it will be fun to give that fanzine to the people with a little of witchcraft. So here in Latin America, it's common to see in some place that sell to you amarres to involve that person that you loved. Yes, our products, basically, like perfumes, water thicks, like things like that. So you give to the person that you love, and we create that he's going or she's going to love us. So that second fanzine has that particular object. The first one that we made, the topic was the water, and in that case, we decided just to make little fanzines that completes the idea for the water, the movement in that topic. So that was the reason that this fanzine exists, basically.
Thanks a lot, Chiki. And now I invite, let me see, to Zully to share with us her experience in the Singapore Art Book Fair.
Okay, so when you were asking me, Jen, about like why don't you talk about a book, then I reject your proposal, because I was like, I'm not making books right now. I just made one book and it's from my authority. So I was like, I want to talk about what Aquí y Allá is doing, trying to make like connections with other fairs or other people who is interested in books, but especially in photo books. I come from like a world of photography. I'm a teacher, a photography teacher. I have been teaching photography for almost 15 years. And I have been working in a lot of projects related to photography here in Colombia, and especially giving opening doors and windows for these photographers working in different topics to show their work in other parts. And some of them are working in the format of a book. So after many connections and a lot of projects that I have been working, when I start to work with Aquí y Allá, basically what I wanted to do is to take those books that are making all these photographers to different parts, not only here in Colombia, but in another parts of the world. It sounds like a lot, but that's what I want to do. So in 2020, we applied, thanks to Eva and Camilo, that they were always telling me, oh, you should apply to other fairs outside of the country, because outside the people is more interested in books and they buy books. So I was looking a different, public. So in 2020, I started to apply to different fairs, and I applied to one in Melbourne, Australia. My sister, she lives there, so my parents, they were going to visit her, and then I was everything is really everything is organized to me for the books to get there. So I applied to 3 fairs, one in Australia, the other one was in Shanghai, and the other one was in Singapore. My family, they travel, my mom and my dad, they travel to Australia, and then with all the books, I called some of these photographers who had published their own books, and then I asked them if they want the books to be there in Australia, so they say yes. We didn't have to pay anything because it was free. So we packed all the books, and my parents, they took them to Australia. And then when they were there, everything was canceled because of the pandemic. So the books were stuck in my sister's house for a year. And then in 2020, last year, Singapore Art Book Fair, they opened again the fair in person, but then because we couldn't travel at that time, and they made a special adoptee program. So I got adopted by a local. So I asked all of these photographers that we had the possibility to be in Singapore, but then we have to pay for the box and to send the books to Singapore from Australia. So we collect the money, and then it was really, really hard for us to get the books there, not because of the money or whatever, but because they were closing every day something new, oh, no. If you send the books, we don't know if they're going to be there in 1 month or in 1 week. Everything was delayed. Everything was really crazy. So we just crossed our fingers. We paid for everything. And we were just we are going to send the books to Singapore. And if they get there on time, it's going to be a good thing. So luckily, we got there on time, and we could participate. Yes, we participate in the fair for a weekend, and it was really amazing for me because I wasn't there, nobody was there talking about, oh, this is Juanita Escobar and her work is about blah blah blah. Nobody was talking about the books. So it was really interesting that 70% of the books were sold, and nobody was talking about them. Only them were talking about what their author and the editor and all the people who work behind the book was just like telling to the people. So it was really, yeah, amazing to be there in the middle of the pandemic, and the books had like this big potential of talk about some specific topic without being somebody else like talking and trying to convince the buyer or the other person to get the book. So this picture that you're seeing here is because all the year the books were stuck in my sister's house, so they were just traveling with this logo of Aquí y Allá everywhere, like the emblematic things and places in Australia, and they were just like posting the stickers everywhere just to move the project. And yeah, they took out the sticker, and the kangaroo is fine. Thank you.
I think we're all happy to hear that. Thank you, Zully.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not mine.
and now I invite to Eva to talk us a little bit about No Nos Vamos a Callar.
Thank you. Well, now that I was hearing Zully talk, I was just thinking, I'm remembering when you asked me to talk about a book or a project that we did, I really wanted to talk about how we distribute books and like the things that we have to do when we live in Latin America to just send books abroad. And like, yeah, like all of our friends are always like traveling with books in their suitcases, and like we do crazy things to get books seen like outside the country. But then I really wanted to talk about this project, and it's not even a book, or like it's more like printed matter. Like we printed a lot of things. It's not even my project. It's just it's not even a project. It's just something that happened last year during the national strike. The national strike that became a war zone in the city that we were living, Cali, and in most of other places in Colombia. So for those that are not familiarized with the recent history of Colombia, there was this national strike. There is this website where you can read about it. It's nonosvamosacallar.com, the one that we're showing in the screen. But basically there was this national strike, and we didn't know what to do. Like we didn't know how to help from the place that we were in, like from our studio, and out of how do you say impotencia, like out of impotent, how do you say that?
Like with frustration.
Yeah, with a lot of frustration, like we did this open call and asked people if they wanted or if they needed to print some posters for the demonstrations. And it was crazy. Like we got thousands of images, sentences. Some of them are here. And the reason why we did this kind of archive, because we thought it was important, but also because there were Colombian people, or well, like, there were other people outside Colombia organizing demonstrations in other parts of the world. So this was an easy way to send them like the like the ideas and images that we were seeing here. And actually, this is a really difficult thing for me to talk about, like, and I think like maybe for all of us, because it was a really intense moment, like emotional moment, and like very complicated time that I don't even know if I'm beginning to process, like, and it's been like a year. But we put together a video, and I wanted to show that video to you all, and then maybe just talk a little bit.
Hey, Jennifer, if you want to restart the screen share, I think we need to do that to get the audio again.
Okay, great. Give me a second. Here. Yeah.
Ahora aquí hubo un paro, ¿sí? Un paro nacional y sobre todo en esta ciudad. Las expresiones frente al paro que usó el gobierno nacional fueron en una ciudad como Cali, que es de América Latina la segunda con más población afrodescendiente. El trato que se le dio a la protesta social, sobre todo en esta ciudad racializada, fue trato de guerra, ¿sí? Y las violencias ejercidas hacia esos jóvenes, hacia esas mujeres, en esos territorios racializados, fueron violencias con sevicia, ¿sí? Vimos imágenes
facing the system, with a focus on the COVID-19 pandemic response, as well as the risks for human rights, biodiversity, climate action, global economic prospects, and deepening inequalities.
So this is a video that we put together last year for the virtual art book fair. Again, out of frustration and needing to tell people about what was going on, even though we weren't even able to tell ourselves what was going on. And for me, this is one of the most important projects that we did, even though that, as I said, it's not a project, it's just something that happened, because this is like the ultimate goal of the publisher, I think. It's just like to disappear and like give people the means to be able to say what is important. And I think that everything that was said back then was important and is still important. And I just wanted to mention just a quick note about the book that is featured in that video. Is that is an example of the things that we got for us to print at that moment. That is the words of the mother of Nicolás Guerrero. He was a student, a person that was killed by the state in these riots. And there was this project that is called Noise Radio. They have like radio tables, and they were going to all the demonstration points, and they were like talking to people, and they gathered these words by her mom, and we printed and were distributed in the demonstrations. So yeah, I invite everyone here to just check the web pages in English and Spanish, so everyone should be able to understand.
Thanks a lot, Eva, for that.
Ahora,
All right. So, well, yeah. So also, I wanted to share something. I'm gonna do it really quick so that we can jump to the two biggest questions that I want us to discuss in terms of somehow some conclusions that we can give to people who is listening to us. So I just wanted to share a little bit of an experience that I had from the last 6 months in Mexico. So I traveled there and I was kind of studying the editorial scene in the country, and I was really impressed to realize that the editorial scene in Mexico is like marvelous. I mean, of course, it's marvelous, but I mean in terms of self-management and self-government. I think Mexico right now is in a place where I literally could have been in a different fair or event or selling books and signs and posters every weekend, like each Saturday or Sunday or Friday or anything. You could be there selling stuff, because that is how strong the self-management scene is. They have these kind of places to sell things. I don't know if it's okay to call them markets, but I think it's not the right word. But it's called tianguis. That is a place where people gather together and put tables and things to sell stuff. And that is also permanent, but not every day, but like a day of the week in the different places. And in those tianguis, there is place also to sell books and things, and there is also some tianguis that are thematic and stuff. And I participated in some of them, but also there were fairs organized by these same collectives that were making signs and that were making books. And the scene is so big and so strong in terms of the relationships that have people like friends that organize together these things for their other friends. It's so strong that you can be selling your things each weekend. So I was really impressed for that. And I think actually we here in Colombia are kind of heading to something like that. Of course, Mexico has like a lot of more experience than us in these social organization things. But the thing I see is that we here are heading to something like that, because what we are consolidating right now in the scene has to do with that, like with the economy of affection, with the self-management dynamics, with opening the circulation circuits, the circulation places where to show stuff without the limitations of what the art that belongs to the elites will put to people. Like you have to, like the book or the art you make has to accomplish these standards so that you can show it here in this gallery or in this museum. The places that we are creating that come from the fanzine scene don't have those dynamics, don't have those validation dynamics. So I think what's happening in Mexico right now is something that we are somehow going is something that we are somehow, I don't know if trying to achieve, maybe not trying to achieve like that was our referent, although it is somehow, because Mexico is a great referent for Latin America. But yeah, I feel like we're heading somehow to that place too. So I just wanted to share that thought really quick. But now to go to the last part of our conversation, we're gonna answer uh, two big questions regarding the conceptualization first, and production of books, and later talking a little bit more about the discovery and visibility. But before we answer this first question, I'm gonna read something that Don Clifton wrote. Are signs generally more political or personal on Colombia? That's a really interesting question. I think we could start answering actually that, but I'm gonna ask the artists who are invited here. The plan was that each one could ask one of the two questions, but I think the time we have is not enough for that. So I'm gonna ask you just two people per question to answer. So we're gonna start with the question that Dan Clifton says, but that is gonna answer just one person. So I repeat, the question is, are signs generally more political or personal on Colombia? And I'm gonna ask who want to answer to that question. I can see you guys. I don't know why, but suddenly I can't see you.
Can I
Yeah.
answer?
Who's talking?
Eva.
Yeah, sure. Please.
I mean, I think this is not answering at all, but I think that all books in Colombia are political because they're personal. Like, you get a lot of personal books and they're all political, you know, because like things that happen every day are political. Or I don't know if that is like, if that answers the question, or I would love to know what you guys think.
Alejandra, yeah.
Yeah, I think the same as Eva, because there is, I think, a question that we make, and it's like, what is that I want to share? That is going to stop being something private, and I want to make it public. And I think that the action is political, and the everyday is really political. Like maybe in the poems in Casa Barullo, it can be very personal, but every person's life is very affected by the context. When it was the national strike, everything was very personal, very political.
Thanks, Ale. Yeah, I think also when I first thought of this conversation, I had in my head this image that I shared also a lot before with my friends. That was that there was some kind of spectrum between what was a fanzine and what was an artist book, and I thought that the spectrum was the same. Was I make the book a spectrum, and was the same. But if you place yourself in a position where you make the book because of political reasons, you were making fanzine. But if you place yourself in a position where you make the book because of aesthetic intentions, then you were making artist book. And I thought a lot about that, but now, because of this conversation, actually, I realized that here in Colombia is a hybrid and all the time moving spectrum, because you can also do artist book for political reasons, and you can also do fanzine for aesthetic reasons. So I think answering your question done, Clifton. I think, yeah, it's both. Like here in Colombia and also I think Latin America, there is always strong political reasons to do stuff everywhere. I mean, but here we set ourselves in that position a lot. So yeah, I think also it can. Okay, so now for answering our two big questions, I'm gonna ask you to answer this regarding the conceptualization and production of books. When you're making your books, what is it that goes through your mind when thinking of where to show or to sell them? So I don't know, I'm gonna tirarte al agua, Juliana. I don't know if Juliana, maybe would you like to answer this?
Well, today that we're talking about artist book visibility, I was actually starting to think that when I started to publish, I never thought of doing artist books in Bogota because I don't think that there are spaces where they circulate aside from like these really big fairs, for example, in Arbo, which is one of our biggest art fairs. Like you see the stand with the amazing artist books, but they are of course very expensive. And that's usually where they circulate in like galleries and places that are difficult for younger people or people who don't have the means to have access to them. So I really, from the beginning, thought about making zines, and like I shared before, then with time I realized that I was doing like this hybrid, and that a lot of us were doing this hybrid where we were using like maybe self-publication and zines way of making books, but we were still putting like our point of view of materiality and making the object feel plastic and like a work of art. So I think because there wasn't a lot of space where artist book navigated that were accessible to us, because I mean there were, just not where we were, we started making these hybrids and just seeing how and a lot of us don't even know each other, but we started doing it at the same time, which is quite a weird phenomenon. But I think we still influenced each other. Like, for example, Alejandra and I, we went to the same university, but we never actually met. Like, we saw each other a couple times. And then I saw that she was organizing fairs. So I really got into the circuit because of her. And we met like years later. So I think it's like with our generation, we really like influenced each other into creating this hybrid where people could just make whatever they wanted in the spectrum, like Jen was saying. So we had people in the same spaces making zines, we had people making artist books, and everything in between, basically, where it didn't really matter so much if it was in one category or another. So for me, the fairs are the best place to show my books, definitely. And funny enough, I think the fairs that are organized by more like independent collectives, like for example, the one that Alejandra has, and thankfully there are many others in Bogota, somehow they seem to be very effective because they call to people who are very interested in that in those objects and consuming those books in particular. So even though it's small, I think there has, like with the fairs in Bogota, there has been like a really nice understanding of what we're all doing. And that has also translated into independent bookshops taking in our books, because I mean, of course, they're more delicate. It's more difficult for bookshops to take them in, but they have started to see that it is possible. And it's lovely that, like Alejandra's library and bookshop now, it's like it has a space intentionally for zines, which I think is quite new in Bogota as well. So I would say definitely for me, fairs, bookshops, and also, like Jen's project where she also takes in small projects that don't have maybe the ability to be distributing all the time. So she takes that on for them, which has also really helped for all of us to work together, which has been really nice.
Thanks, Juliana. Alejandra.
Wanted to say something more really fast, and is that for me it was a question of what people I want that read this book, this scene, and then how can I get to them? And if the space doesn't exist, well, I'm going to create it, in an autonomous way, and making it each year, and making this scene fair. Also, this one Papel Caliente that has scenes and books, make that bookshops and art fairs like Artbo see what is happening, and see that it's not only one person, two persons making this scene art book, but there is a lot of people, and now they are opening more and more spaces. And for example, this year, Papel Caliente is part of Artbo, this art fair. So they're opening spaces to make this dialogue of what is happening, and in this hybrid space.
Thanks, Alejandra. And when I talk of this question, I also talk a lot about Chiqui's work from Niebla, because I think her work can easily be in the category of, in this artificial category of fanzine or artist book. So Chiqui, are you maybe you want to share something with us regarding that? What is it that goes through your mind when you are creating your books, about where to sell them or what to show them?
Yes, I was thinking these days that there is a love problem because I am really emotional person. So I made all these things, all these objects, and in my head, it is not the problem for, okay, I need to solve this to get money back. There is not the principal problem. That is a problem that comes before. When I am in the fair, I am there and I think, yes, I need the money. But the first idea is, no, I will give this to someone, whatever person, everyone that it is in the street. Sometimes I put my books in the street, and I like to think nothing. No, the idea that, okay, someone is going to take it. No, just put it them, and no waiting, nothing. And another things, yes, it is important. Like, okay, I'm going to sell this. But it is curious because in Niebla we have that problem a lot. Sometimes we made the fanzines and we made the objects, and it's just in the moment that we are on the table in the fair that we say, okay, this is going to cost this, and the other is going to cost this. So the person that has this type of money can buy both or just one, and yes, have the possibility to decide, no, just to go with one thing. So I think that we have a lot of problem when we make all that things.
Yeah, I also think it's very interesting. I think it's worth mentioning that Niebla does this dynamic that I find it really awesome. That is that they collect different graphic material from different people, artists who make visual like projects, and they gather all of that material and put it into an envelope, into several envelopes that they put in the city, like in different places on the street, so they can paste it in a, how do you say, poste? um, yeah, in these things that give light in the street, there they put it there. And later on Instagram, they start sharing like clues. So it's like a treasure hunting. And you can go on the street and look for the envelopes with a lot of different signs and graphic work of different people, and that is free. And it's not with any kind of marketing intention. I think. I hope. I
No,
think.
no, no
I know it's not.
has, no had.
Uh-huh.
I like graffiti world, so I think that it is a dynamic that we take to this fanzine book world. Graffiti, the persons that make graffiti always being in the street with stickers, papers, post, and the moment that you are in the moment that you see someone painting, you as a person, a normal person seeing that, you can go and say, well, I like this, or maybe I don't like this, but I know you have stickers, can you give me one? And that is a really special and beautiful moment. And I think that we take that about the graffiti world and try to put it in this one in a different form.
Great. Yeah, that I think is also what's happening like in the scene in general with this autogestion, self-management thing, that we are taking some dynamics, a lot of I mean all of it, the dynamics from the self-management scenes, and building an editorial scene from that with that. So awesome. Thanks. They informed me that we have a bit more time so that we can discuss our second question. Thanks a lot for the extra space. So I'm gonna project it too. And this is for the people who have not talked. The second question that I had for you is regarding distribution, discovery, and visibility of the books. And I wanted to ask what was the role of the community and what communities that the visibilization, distribution of books and processes in each of the cases that Zully and Eva presented to us, the Singapore Art Book Fair and the carteles, the posters dynamic, while the Paro in Colombia. So Eva and Zully, you are invited to discuss. Yeah. And maybe here we can talk a little bit now more about what you, Eva, were saying about the things that we in Latin America have to do for getting books in other countries. I think that's a lot part of this question. Yeah.
You want to start, Suri?
Well, actually, I don't know, because we have talked and we have like tried to help each other, trying to connect books. And, you know, like when we met in a fair, and then you were like telling me what to do, like in a good way, how to get books in bags and to take them to other countries or whatever. So for us, especially in the photographic world, it's really important to make a community. And it's really hard because photographers are always like with this big ego, like they are really centered about doing their books, but once the book is out, they forget that they have to sell the book, they have to distribute the book. And that's why Aquí y Allá is here. Like, okay, you got a book, and now I want to help you to move the book, not only in Colombia, but in some other places. So the community is really weird in the photography world. I have been creating this community of people interested in moving their book outside of this like little bubble. So that's why I'm here right now with you guys. Like I have met a lot of amazing people in the editorial world outside of the photographic small like bubble. And it's really interesting when we got the books to Australia and then we have to send them to Singapore because I have to ask for money. I mean, like, okay, they got to Australia. Right now, we need to get some money to get the books to another place. So they were all, and this was January 2021, like everybody was on vacation after New Year's Eve and everything. And you know that here in Colombia, those vacations are like, everybody wants to be disconnected of everything. So I was like, I don't know if it was January 3rd or 6th, I was like, hi, how are you? Happy New Year. We have to send these books as soon as possible in order to get the box with the books like really fast. And everybody answered me like, oh, that's amazing. We were like in total 10 people with different publications. Like one was like a small fanzine and the other ones were like these really hard covered books and like fancy books. But they were like, okay, it's okay if I have to pay, I don't know, $50, it's okay. I want my book to be there. So that's possible because there's somebody like creating this connection and doing all the administration thing. But if I ask other people like, oh, what about if we send the books, but what do you think? What are we going to do? Sometimes here people is like, oh, really lazy and I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to ask people for money. I don't want to apply for, you know, like sometimes people get lazy because, I don't know, because they don't know how to do it or because they don't have this passion of like meeting people and, oh, let's go and why don't we try to do something different? And I don't know, I have been doing this for almost like 7-8 years with photographic projects. Like we don't know if we can do it, but let's do it anyway. And then we learn. So the community here, I'm creating a community under Aquí y Allá. And I have met a lot of artists doing photography. And I'm an artist too. I studied arts in the school too. So for me has been like going back to the art world and meeting like this kind of people like you guys. So I'm moving a different community and then I have my own criteria about who I want to move their book or who I don't want to. Not because, oh, you are like, I don't like you, no, but because of their connection with their projects and with what they are doing. And in this photo book world, right now in Latin America is something really important. We have been connected like from Mexico to Argentina through books, and that's amazing. Like we have met a lot of photographers doing a lot of amazing things through books. So I guess that's a big community. And then it's like, I want to show what Latin Americans, photographers or artists are doing like in different places. Right now, there are a lot of friends or colleagues showing their books in Printed Matters Art Book Fair right now. So that's like a big community, but we can show all the books once, no? Like everybody's showing their projects, and like I applied for the fair, but we didn't get into the fair. So a lot of artists that they have only published one book, they can be there because I wasn't like, yeah, I was like, no, I don't know, next time maybe we can get the books of these people in other places.
Yeah, so I think distribution is really a problem in Colombia, and that's why I'm so excited with projects like yours, Zully, and Jen, like, because you really need like a human source, like power there to just travel with someone else's books and show them to people, and the enthusiasm that you two have is remarkable. And well, I mean, just a note for people that are listening outside Colombia, like we have even independent distributors in Colombia, but I don't know if you agree, like me being a reso printer, like our books are really delicate, not in a bad way, like they're not gonna fall apart, but you know, like it's just thing that you have to break one to sell one, no? Like if people start like just handling them in the bookshops and such, it's just gonna break, and we make such small editions that sometimes it's not even worth it. And then I don't know. So in my experience, I started to, well, just for the audience, I'm not from Colombia. I lived there 7 years, but when I moved there and I bought a Riso, and Riso didn't even have distribution there, and I had to ask random people to bring me tubes of ink in their suitcases to Colombia. That at like in the beginning it was like a really strange thing, but then somewhere along the way I got used to it, and I got used to be that person, you know, like there's always somebody that is going to ask you to carry something if you're traveling outside or to Colombia. And then all of a sudden you organize a whole operation and a whole distribution operation out of your friends' suitcases. And that is really strange, but I think it's something that a lot of independent publishers share, not only in Colombia. I think that, well, I don't know, but I think that here in the States too. But sometimes it gets really precarious in Colombia also because of when you do the exchange of currencies like pesos to USD, it's just crazy. So you have to get really creative to be able to ship your books and for them not to have like really expensive prices, right? But now going back to, I mean, just that we were talking about this international distribution, like I had the experience to be able to set like a kind of, not to set, but kind of discover a network in Cali when we had this national strike and our neighborhoods were actually closed. Like we were not able to leave our houses. Like there was martial law, like it was legal to shoot anyone that was outside in the street, and communications were tapped. So it really amazed me how in a matter of 2 days, people were able to start communicating in a very analog way. And we managed to print more than 3,000 posters that were distributed to all parts of the city. And that was scary. And that was also like, it really filled us with hope because, you know, there were like a lot of people connected in that sense. And for me, that is something that whenever I think distribution of books, like just internationally or just local, that's what I think, like a lot of people just carrying books around and like helping each other.
That's very beautiful and make me think in this image that I had also in Mexico, because I was there in with my project Musa Paradisiaca. So I I took a bag full of just books that later I realized, because they are super heavy. I don't know, but books are like bricks and they are super heavy. I had to put half books in my cloth bag and the other half in the other bag. So I took all of the books that I had in my little storage here in Colombia to move them in Mexico. And there was a fair that I had to go, and it was super far away from my house. But well, Mexico City is like enormous, so it's really expensive to pay for a car, like an Uber or something like that, or to take a cab. So I had to take the metro, and I was carrying like the bag with the books, and it was so heavy, it almost hurt. But then I thought of this image that is also pretty beautiful, that this distribution dynamics that we have also is what we can carry with our bodies. Like literally is the things that you can take with your hands, and that is what you can move. It's not like this industrial uh, thing, behavior, where you ship like 1,000 books, or well, maybe 500 or something like that. No, you have to take them and carry them with your body, and that is also pretty performatic and beautiful. So yeah, and in these last minutes, I'm gonna allow myself to answer that too regarding the community. And is that, yeah, I think now in these times where communities are not longer like geographic communities, because it's difficult like to create a collective within your neighborhood, although it's also possible. But I think these communities that we are creating now are made of our family, our friends. Like we in this scene, we're not only co-workers, like we're also friends, and there is an affection, some affections there, that yeah, like the way to care for people, that make this work. Like there is no way that this will work if that caring, if that love will not exist. So I think that's the way we do it. And last, I wanted to read also a question, the last question for Don Clifton, that asked, do the national institutions, library, art galleries, museums have signed collections? And the answer is there is only one library here, that is the Biblioteca Nacional, that has a collection of fanzines. But and yeah, they organize activities and stuff, but this whole thing regarding the self-government word, that I don't know the context in Australia, but thinking about it here also has to do with that, with the lack of institutional support for these kind of projects. Like, yeah, there are some, I don't know how to say, stimulus, some economic prices that government,
Similar to grants here, I think.
yeah, those that government gives for people with these projects, but the institutional support is really not present. So that's why we have had to take other measurements to be able to make visible the things, the books and the work of people who are making books. So yeah. And well, that was everything we had to share with you. Thanks a lot for joining this conversation. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks a lot to Karina and to everyone. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to everyone who tuned in, and thank you to Zully, Juliana, Eva, Alejandra, Jennifer, and Chiki. It was so great to learn about your practices, and I hope that we can collaborate sometime in the near future. I also just want to let everyone know who is on YouTube right now watching that the last event of this year's conference starts at 7:30 tonight. It's going to be in person at Center for Book Arts, but also live streaming on YouTube just for you. So please tune in at 7:30. We're going to have a keynote speech with Camila Janan Rashid. So thank you again, everyone, and we'll be in touch soon.